Hey YouTube, it's ICU, and today I'm going to be unboxing not only the all-new iPad Air 2, but also the iPad Mini 3 in this dual unboxing, similar to my previous iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus unboxing last month, and I'll have a link to that in an annotation form on the screen after the intro of this video if you're on the desktop version of YouTube. Alright, so to start off, as I mentioned previously, we have two devices here. We have the all-new iPad Air 2 and the iPad Mini 3. Now, in this video, I'm not really going to go too into depth comparing the two and going over the differences. However, last week I did create a separate 2-minute video that actually goes over all of the features and differences between these two iPads. So if you're interested in that, again, you can find it on the screen now if you're on the desktop version of YouTube or simply on my channel. And without any further ado, let's actually get into this unboxing by starting off with the boxes themselves. So on the front, we have two pictures of the iPads. We have the iPad Mini and the iPad Air 2. Now, you will notice that the iPad Air 2 actually looks slightly thinner in the picture than the iPad Mini 3. That's because it is. The iPad Air 2 is now 6.1 millimeters thin, which is actually an entire millimeter thinner than the iPhone 6 Plus. And it's actually 18% thinner than its predecessor, and it weighs just 0.96 pounds. Alright, and also on the side of these two iPads, the iPad Mini simply says iPad Mini with an Apple logo, and the iPad Air says iPad Air with an Apple logo, as you would expect. And also on the other side, we have the exact same thing with just some information about the devices on the back, including some serial numbers. So let's go ahead and switch views here. Alright, so as you can see, we have 128 gigabytes for the iPad Air and 16 gigabytes for the iPad Mini 3. By the way, this iPad Mini is not mine. I'm going with the iPad Air 2 because of all of its changes, which I'll start to get into a little bit later in this unboxing. But with that out of the way, let's actually go ahead and cut through the plastic that's sealing these boxes. I have my knife right here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Alright, so cutting through the plastic here, it's going to make opening these boxes significantly easier. And I'm going to flip them around, change the camera view, and we'll get started. Alright, so with the iPad Air 2, after having taken all of the plastic off, we're going to set that aside and lift the lid, which will reveal the device sitting directly on top. As you can see, we have the iPad Air 2, which can be easily lifted out of its box simply by this plastic tab that's actually built into the plastic enclosure that's surrounding the device itself. I'm going to go ahead and set this off to the side, and we're going to review the rest of the contents of the box, but not before powering it on. So let's go ahead and set this off to the side in its lid and go over what we have in the box. Now, over on the left-hand side, of course, we have the standard charging brick that's customary of all iPads. I'm going to go ahead and take the plastic off. As you can see, this is the standard US wall adapter built into this one. Closing it, let's lift this booklet out. And now getting a close-up, as you can see on the top, we have a card that says iPad Air. It goes over some of the basics of the device, and it also highlights, of course, the Touch ID home button. Setting that off to the side, we also have an iPad info sheet and 2 Apple logo stickers. That's it. Let's get back to the box, and actually all we have left is just a standard lightning cable, which is used for data transfers and charging. I'm actually going to put that right back in there, and now let's go over to the iPad Mini 3. So moving over here, of course, we have the box for the all-new iPad Mini. Let's actually go ahead and take the plastic off of this one. And we're going to lift the lid, which of course, like the new iPad Air, will reveal the Mini sitting directly on top. And now lifting it out of its box, I'm going to go ahead and set this one off to the side after powering it on, and we'll go over the contents, which should be identical to those of the iPad Air 2. On the left-hand side, we have our charging brick, again, standard US wall adapter. And over here, for the booklet, I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And refocusing, it's almost identical, except we have a little card that says iPad Mini, obviously, instead of iPad Air, but it does highlight the all-new Touch ID home button, which is really the only significant revision in the iPad Mini 3 over its predecessor. So let's set this off to the side. We also have an iPad info sheet, and again, 2 Apple logo stickers with the Lightning USB cable below those 3. Now let's take the plastic protecting the iPads off, starting with the iPad Air 2. All right, here we go, guys. This is the all-new iPad Air 2 with its Touch ID home button. Setting this one down, let's lift up the iPad Mini 3 and take the plastic off of it. All right, so here you have this one. I'm going to set this down as well, and we're going to take a look at just how thin the Air 2 actually is. All right, so there you have it. It was a little hard to get a shot that conveys just how thin the Air 2 is. It's noticeably thinner over even the iPad Mini 3, which is over here on the right-hand side. And I'm actually going to go through the setup process of these two iPads really quick, and I'll be right back to kind of highlight a few things between the two. And now I'm not done setting up the iPad yet, but I came to this step, which is the Touch ID step, and I'm going to show you guys how you set up Touch ID on the iPad Air 2 and the Mini 3 with their all new Touch ID sensors, similar to those of the iPhone 5S, the iPhone 6, and iPhone 6 Plus, but of course, these are the first iPads to integrate Apple's biometric fingerprint scanning technology. So let's go ahead and set up Touch ID now. I'm just going to use my pointer finger for both, and as you can see, it's identical to the setup process on the iPhone 5S, iPhone 6, and iPhone 6 Plus. You just place your finger on the sensor and you lift it repeatedly until it proceeds on to the next step. So as you can see, I'm getting little prompts here on the iPad Mini to actually lift my finger. It appears as though I wasn't setting it up as accurately on the iPad Mini, but let's go ahead and set up this portion now where you actually adjust your grip. So let's get a close-up of how it looks on the Mini 3 here, and then we'll go to the Air 2. So after refocusing, again, you position your finger in slightly different places on this portion. You lift it, raise it up, and set it back down at different orientations so that it will better recognize your fingerprint when it comes to unlocking. So now I'm just going to pick a passcode, and just for this video, I'm just going to use 1111, and I can of course change that later. And now let's actually go to the Air 2 now and set up that one. So again, remember, we are lifting the finger, setting it back down in a slightly different orientation than we had placed originally. So let's go ahead and do that a couple more times here until we complete the Touch ID setup on the Air 2. We're good to go. And of course, 1111. So let's use that passcode, 111. Okay. And now I'm actually going to use for App Store purchases. And we should be almost done for the setup process. I'm not going to restore passwords right now. Use Siri, don't send diagnostics, don't share, get started. All right, so here you go. We have the iPad Air 2 and the Mini 3 booted into iOS 8. And it's actually immediately apparent that the iPad Air 2 has a significantly better display than the one found on the Mini 3. So let's see if I can get this in the same shot here. It's going to be really hard to tell on video, but it's significantly clearer on the Air 3, and it actually looks like it's closer. That's because the air gap between the display and the actual display cover itself is no longer present on the Air 2. That's partially why it's so much thinner than the Mini 3 and its predecessor even. So let's go ahead and get a close-up of just how thin it is from this angle. So again, we have the Air 2 and the Mini 3. Big difference there. Of course, we do not have the lock and mute switch over on the right-hand side here because of the new design. All right, so kind of wrapping up here, and actually what I just noticed when looking through the viewfinder of my camera is that this is a more accurate representation of the difference in the display quality on the iPad Air 2 versus the Mini 3. And part of that could also be attributed to the fact that the display itself features an anti-reflective coating. It's custom made by Apple, and it's supposed to reduce glare by up to 56%. So that could be the situation in this instance with my studio lights set up on either side of these iPads. However, of course, the Air 2 does feature that laminated display with no air gaps between the actual body and the display. I didn't want to go too into depth in this video, however, just know that the iPad Air 2 does feature an A8X processor, whereas the Mini 3 simply has the same A7 chip as its predecessor. The Air 2 also has 2 GB of RAM. It's just better really really in every sense. It has an improved 8 megapixel iSight camera, and like I mentioned toward the beginning of this video, if you have yet to see my 2-minute comparison between these two iPads that summarizes all of the features and differences, be sure to watch that now. I highly recommend it. Of course, also stay tuned for more coverage on these new iPad models. Let's go ahead and get one last look actually at the original iPad Air versus the Air 2. All right, and this is a pretty big difference. As you can see, we have the significantly thinner Air 2 over on the left-hand side and the original Air on the right. So there you have it. The Air 2 is drastically thinner than any other iPad model, and actually even thinner than the new iPhones. All right, so I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, just be sure to rate it up and leave a relevant comment down below in the comment section, and download free App Life to actually enter for your chance to win an all-new iPad Air 2. After visiting bit.ly/getfreeapplife or just freeapplife.com inside of mobile Safari, hit download. After that, press the home button, open the app, and if you're on iOS 8, download the temporary secure profile, which is strictly used for associating your device with its proper account in a more secure manner on the latest firmware. It's never even installed on your device, as it's immediately deleted once your account has either been created or reassociated. After that, simply download sponsored apps and refer friends. Each download and each referral counts as one entry. Points, of course, can then be used for various prizes, including paid apps, gift cards, and electronic devices. All right, and that's pretty much it for this video. Of course, this is a very exciting day because not only were the two new iPad models released, but also the first iOS 8 jailbreak was made available by the Pangu dev team. It is ready to go to jailbreak iOS 8 through 8.1. And if you happen to miss that, just be sure to check out my channel. Also, stay tuned for more videos on these two iPads. And if you liked it, of course, like I mentioned before, just be sure to hit that thumbs up button and share it around. And if you guys want to be updated more often, such as when I create new videos covering not only the new iPads, but also future Apple products, such as the forthcoming Apple Watch, just be sure to like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. And until next time, this is ICU signing out.